Est-ce que vous nous entendez? Je ne crois pas qu'il nous entend, en fait.
Pascal, tu nous entends? Envoie un message peut-être. Ou peut-être qu'il faut activer ton micro à toi. Voilà, que tu te mutes en écoute, mais tu mets le micro.
Très bon.
Voilà, c'est la sortie qu'il faut couper. Voilà, il faut laisser un seul, donc coupe celui-là. Ah oui, oui, c'est vrai. Pascal, tu nous entends? Ouais, et ça fait un écho. Comment on peut faire alors? Bon, sinon on coupe tout, on laisse que lui parler et après on se démerde pendant les questions, quoi. Mais est-ce qu'on peut faire
Soit il se plug sur YouTube parce que c'est en direct, non, parce qu'on diffuse sur YouTube avec ça. Donc soit il se met sur YouTube et puis on lui donne l'accès. En fait, c'est pour ça que vous avez une boucle. Parce que lui, il se met par-dessus avec un micro et tout. Donc ça va pas.
Mais bon, si lui il coupe son sport.
Ah, son micro, oui.
Lui, il n'a pas besoin même d'être électrique. Là, par exemple, pas.
Non, il n'y a aucun micro sur cet ordinateur.
Mais même ce qu'il entend, non, dans la salle.
Le seul moyen qu'il a d'entendre, c'est ce qui est transmis par ton PC à toi.
Il faut lui dire qu'il ouvre le live stream sur YouTube.
pour écouter?
Mais il va s'entendre lui-même, alors
C'est pas grave, il le met de côté. C'est juste pour la période de questions, parce que quand il parle, il n'a pas
parce
besoin.
qu'on a une latence. Hein.
Ouais, ouais, pas mal.
Ouais, parce que là, tu commences à parler. Ah bah c'est sûr, c'est un stream, c'est pas... C'est ce qu'on appelle un duplex.
Ouais. Comment on peut faire alors?
Téléphone. Tu l'appelles sur WhatsApp.
Bon, moi je propose quelque chose. Je fais une petite intro, après il lance déjà son discours, et entre-temps, moi après, je l'appelle même par WhatsApp et on fait pour les questions. Parce que c'est 5-10 minutes les questions, c'est pas grave. Ou par chat, voilà.
Oui,
Okay?
aussi.
Mais tu lui dis juste que moi je fais une intro 5 minutes et après il peut parler. Voilà.
Juste là, parce que sinon ça va être horrible.
Ouais, parce que quand on fait ça, on fait tout depuis la même machine.
Je sais.
Si bien l'enregistrement que...
Ouais, je sais que c'est un dispositif un petit peu...
Non, ça va, c'est faisable. Mais il faut le faire depuis la même machine.
Stéphane, tu peux faire un deuxième appel aux gens?
Il lance pour pas
Ouais, c'est...
On appelle plutôt en anglais, je dirais. Ça ne m'embête pas. C'était tout en anglais, mais on a dit juste une chose pour rappel, c'est que il y a cette commencé
Okay, so sorry for this little delay, technical problem. Welcome again. Small reminder about the program of this afternoon. We have very nice talk now from Pascal Meder from Montreal, Canada. Pascal is not a computer scientist, he's an artist, cinema producer, etc. But he has a lot of idea about bringing gamification and games in real life and in urban environment, in the street, etc. So yeah, he will try to expose this vision and describe some tools and solutions he's working on. Then we will have a session on education and training. This session will be managed by Dr. Guy Haller. After that, at 4 p.m., we have a round table, as I said this morning, on using games and gamifications and serious games in the metaverse. What is the potential, what is possible, what is not, etc. So it's new, we will discuss about that. And I invite you to be here for the trophy ceremony at the end, because GSGS every year collaborate with the School of...
Je sais pas si...
C'est normal.
Si c'est vous, est-ce que si ça doit... Dites-moi quand je dois commencer. Et puis... parce que j'entends plus la présentation de Yacine. Je ne sais pas s'il parle encore.
Encore une minute. Okay, so I said we are collaborating since the first edition of GSGS with the School of Art and Design in Geneva, La HED. Students from HED are designing our trophy each year. So we will discover them with you at the end of this day. So yeah, it's always innovative, nice. So I invite you to assist to the trophy ceremony at 5 p.m. 30. And of course, we will close the this session at 6 p.m. Okay, so this is the plan. This is the planning. And now I'm pleased, as I said before, to introduce and to welcome Pascal Meder for his talk.
Donc, bonjour tout le monde. J'imagine que j'ai pas entendu Yacine, mais j'imagine qu'il a présenté un peu la société et qu'il m'a présenté, donc je vais pas recommencer. Yeah, sorry, to switch in English. Thank you. I guess Yacine introduced the company and myself, so I'm not going to redo this. I'm going to dive right into our project. So we are Urbanoid. We're based both in Montreal, Canada, and in Geneva, Switzerland. We have multiple projects for a very young and small company. But today I'm going to mainly speak to you about our open platform that was the origin of the project, which we call it the Exode platform, which is for the idea of which the idea was to use the readily existing environment. I'm trying to share this with you. So basically, to share our idea was we made the choice to use the existing environment as a backdrop to augment its experience with technology. The use of technology, mobile device, wearables, IoTs, as a tool for users to experience a readily immersive existing environment populated with actors to be connected and to connect with, rather than recreating immersive environments like video games or VR. So basically, I come from a background of movie making, and towards the end of my career as a film producer, I realized that we spent a lot of time in studios, in basically post-production studios, trying to recreating wind through the leaves, waves, whatever special effect. And we had farms of hundreds of developers recreating this environment. And I decided to bet to use the real world, and to, instead of recreating it through immersive technologies, and to use technology as tools, basically to augment the connection between users. So basically, obviously, we were using the most obvious tool was the cell phone, was the smartphone, with all its capabilities, but also, as I mentioned, wearables, IoTs, to basically try to make this our world, our connected world, entertaining, and also trying to get anonymous passersby to connect with one another. Another important aspect was the aspect of, instead of basing our platform and our apps on self-generated user profiles, we thought that events would have to be the base. So therefore, not only the notion of space became important, but the notion of time, obviously, because an event, whether it happened 5 minutes ago out on the street corner, or if it happened 20 years ago, this notion was something that was the base, basically, of this urban rendezvous in mixed reality. So we started by creating a very simple web application called Exode, where anonymous users would post a message at specific space-time coordinate, hoping that another user, random or targeted, would navigate to these same coordinates, and that based on the content of the message related to an event that would have happened at these coordinates, an encounter, as I mentioned, or a misconnection of any type, would feel the need to reconnect. This was interesting and led to hundreds of random posts, mostly relating to events that happened years before, and where people wanted to reconnect with people that they could not track down on mainstream social media platform because they did not know their names, or for whatever reasons. So basically, something that would have happened the most, and I'll show you some examples, something that would have happened 30 years ago, and someone would have, I mean, the most obvious example was two people that saw each other at a specific place at a specific time, and wanted to share something, wanted to continue the conversation, and didn't know how to reach out to this person. So we try to find a way to get people to be able to go back in time and relive this moment, and hopefully continue this moment. So this was very interesting experience, but it did not make much sense for mobile users who yearned for a more instantaneous experience. So we're now developing a mobile app based on the same principle of misconnection, but with the added feature of proximity detection and AR messaging. So I'm going to show you this app. Basically, that's the one we had developed initially, and which is exode.org. So basically, we have a map where posts are, and I mean, those are, there's many more posts. If you get into it, they become, if you go to, for example, Montreal, you'll see that, they start to pop up as we get into, and we could see the titles of these posts, and one feature that we wanted to develop was the time factor. So basically, as the time glider slides, you can see posts popping up and popping out because you can filter through time those different posts. So basically, those are all posts, where people, could, relate their experiences. So, we have them in Montreal, we have them on the West Coast. Maybe I'll go to one here. In red, in Los Angeles. YT. So here we go. So basically, most of them became very poetic type of exchanges, but that's basically what it was. So this was a fun experience. We still have the website on, and we still get occasional posts on. But basically, we knew that this was a proof of concept, and that the real usage would come through basically mobile apps. So we went and we developed the Exode app, and the Exode app has three main views or scene. One is a live view through which a user can scan their environment and the surrounding in AR for existing objects, post or users proximity markers, as well as to leave geolocated time-framed messages. So basically, this is an AR view, much like Pokemon Go, except it's in real AR. And we are basically our users are at a specific location, and if it's a location where they can scan the environment and see whether there or not there's a marker around. I'll show you an example after. And if there's a marker around, they can engage with this conversation. And then when they go to the next view, which is the map view, then they could see a map of the city with all the existing message in the city or around the world. But in this use case, it's very much more dedicated to a precise event in space and time, and much more instantaneous. So basically, we're limiting it to the city, and on the map they can consult these maps, these messages, but they can only engage or post at the location in the specific environment. So basically, this brings the person to go to the actual location to engage in a conversation or to initiate a conversation with another anonymous users that will then be able to see this specific post and engage with it. And then we added this view, which is the orbit view, through which users see the other users around them, and we have multiple factors enabling us this notion of proximity. So basically, whether you have interacted with this user by messaging, if you have interacted with this users by crossing path with this user, or if you are very close to this user at this specific time, so that the users will be closer and closer within the basically orbit. And I'll show you after when the orbit view of the app. Before I go to the app, I'll show you another. So our main challenges for this are basically, for this app, are background use restrictions on iOS and Android. Basically, without it, the notion of proximity detection is hard to achieve, and with privacy concerns and battery consumption, both Android and iOS are limiting the app, basically the apps to work in background. Therefore, it's difficult for us to work around it and be able to basically, with the permission of the user, gather data of their basically whereabouts so that we could connect with crossing path with other users. We're based now on a GPS technology. We had tried a technology that was closer to what was used for the COVID apps, basically of Bluetooth, low energy BLE, to make these matches. The only problem with this is we could make matches between users, but it was difficult, it was impossible to make matches between users and objects. So the GPS enables us to not only connect users with each other, but enables us to connect users with objects. There, basically, if a user passes by a location where there's a message, well, this will we'll get a marker for that, and it'll increase the probability of two users connecting. The other big challenge is the precise localization and stability of objects placed in AR. We're actually, as maybe Yacine mentioned, we're working with Yacine and Stéphane at HEPIA and with EPFL, the Polytechnic at Lausanne, to address the notion of surface detection and camera pose, to have, to enable our objects. Basically, in our case, there are markers that mark that, there's a message here for you with a title, and for it to stay at the right location for when another user pass by, or when you restart your app. And eventually, what we're doing with HEPIA and PFL is that these objects will be basically sponsored objects and will remain at a very specific surface. And this is a big challenge, not only for us, but for everybody, obviously, developing AR. As we are building a platform and not only a specific app, we decided to launch a second use case named Urban Orbiter, which is a universal app based on points of interest and historical character. I'll also show you an example. So in this app, basically POIs, points of interest, are localized Wikipedia articles, and they pop up throughout the user's journey. So basically, a user walks around the city and walks by points of interest, which are basically based on articles, Wikipedia articles about either events or locations, or buildings, parks, whatever it is, and street corners, and based on this, the user can engage with this point of interest. And historical characters are the historical figures that are hyperlinked in this article, within these articles, and for which we're developing conversational agents which are trained to harvest their knowledge from Wikipedia and engage in a conversation with the user. And the conversation for now is a text-based conversation, but our goal is obviously to have a kind of to accompany the user through their journey through a voice-to-text and text-to-voice technology. And where we're at now is we were able to develop this technology basically to position obviously the point of interest, and to position the related historical figures within the city, to engage in a very simple conversation. And we're developing here at Concordia University in Montreal a conversational, basically with a personalized conversational agent project, which is we're basically training the bots to harvest Wikipedia and to engage in very pertinent conversations based on these specific on this specific knowledge. For now, the bots that we have, that I'll show you in the article, are trained on Reddit, so it's kind of it gives us tricky conversations when we engage with these bots, because they have not the kind of language that we would expect from a historical character. But that's a very long journey for us to achieve, pertinent conversational bots, and that's what we're doing. And we expect that in about 16 months, we'll have a first version of these bots, which will be, really based on Wikipedia. So I'll go and show you maybe those two apps. So basically here we have the Urban Orbiter. I'll make it big here so you can see it, and I'll start it. I'll speak while it's running. So basically, there it is. So there's this one. This is the second thing. So basically, here are the POIs. The user is walking. I made it accelerated here. This is around McGill University in Montreal. So basically, the users then switch to a compass view where the user could see all the different POIs around with different categories of POIs. Then they could go back to the map and then see, okay, which is, well, by clicking on the POI, they could go and see what's the Wikipedia article. So in this case, it's a building. Well, there's obviously not much interest in this building. There's not many conversational agents or bots related to it that could be of interest. But still, you could go there and switch back to the compass view. And then we're going to flip this compass view and then make it like, and this is all prototype, basically, make it a what we call the constellation view, where from these POIs, well, you can switch to AR here, but you see all these bots that are on top of it are basically all characters that are related to these POIs. So basically there was no one to engage in here, so we decided to check another one. FACE is an alternative school in Montreal, so we thought it was not far. Okay, we look at it, there's here notable alumni, so basically, okay, who's there? Kamala Harris, US Vice President, went to school there, so we decide to walk there, we mark it, and then we go back to the compass view, which basically we're trying to gamify this compass view. So we've accelerated it, so the user would be walking towards the location, and we're trying to generate a notion of discoverability and when we're gamifying this experience. So the user is walking towards and switching from basically and then engaging here and with Kamala Harris. This is a chat bot. Basically, I had already engaged in the conversation for the test. Hey Cam. I did speak to you before. I guess that's what it says. And as you see, the conversations are very shallow for now, and the bots are a little not very well and not enlightened. But the idea that they're placed at the right position and that they know who they are is already an achievement for this first iteration. So we go back there, maybe we'll get a better chance here. Rufus Wainwright is a fairly famous singer, and there we go. So we could try another conversation. So basically this works well, and within a couple of years or we should have, these, or 16 months, we should have these bots working well. We could have this app basically functional and hopefully deployable. So here we go for this app. I'll jump now to the other app, which is the Exode app. There we go. And so this is very, very, very preliminary. So, and then again, you again have the time glider at the bottom to filter time. You can consult the map and see who's there. Then you switch to AR and you scan for messages. As you see the messages, the marker, they're floating in the environment. We're working on trying to get them to be better located and at a more fixed, or basically sticking to a surface. So there you go. You see the heading. I saw you here. So it's a misencounter. And then the message box triggers. Nice. I'll be back tomorrow. So basically, this is to trigger a meeting. And here is how to post a message. So basically, it could be related to an object, or it could be related to something else. And here or to an encounter, a hole in the street. You could mark, by default it's an hour around the time of posting, but it could be in the past or anything. So here you see this message that was posted. You see it back on the street. Again, it's not, you see it moved from the hole where it was, but it's in the same vicinity. So basically, people can then, engage in fun conversation about a location or about anything. And here is what I meant before. It's basically the orbit view. Here you only have one user because we just restarted the system, and normally you could have many users there, and you see in this orbit, basically, this is the user that interacted with the self, which is the red user, and we could basically see how close they are within our community. And then when you click to the post, because it brings you back to the message. And because you have already interacted at the real location, at the actual location, then you could also interact on the map. So basically, that's it. Those were our work in progress, and here we are. So I don't know if you had any question. I hope you got some of what we are doing, and if there are any questions, I'll be glad to reply. But I understand that there's a communication lag, so I'll be here and expecting questions. Thank you.
Okay, I know he is not hearing me, but thank you, Pascal. And I'm sorry, we have some problem of communication, so I will use another application to discuss with Pascal. So we still be able to take questions, and I will.
I'm gonna try to go Yassin's whereby. I don't know please write to me the Yassin's whereby. What's the extension on Yassin's whereby, and I could go there for the questions. I need the whereby.com/ I can't remember was it Yassin?
Yassin Rekik, / Yassin Rekik / en un seul mot, Yassin Rekik. Voilà, c'est ça. Sorry for that again. So if you have questions, don't forget them. Take notes.
Just in case, I'm on Yassin. I'm on whereby.com / Yassin, but I don't remember if that's the right extension or not. So I'm waiting for a reply. If it's something else, please post it on the Yassin record. Thank you.
Anyone have a question? No questions? Okay, so we don't need the connection. No, I have one or two questions if you don't have. Okay. Nice. You said it's okay, j'ai oublié
1 2 1 2.
J'ai oublié de l'accepter. Tu lui dis de refaire. Ah, ok.
So I'm on Yasing Rekik's whereby, and I can only see myself waiting for the host to arrive.
Oui, oui, on va poser les questions par chat. Oui, voilà, c'est mieux. Tu dis qu'on va poser les questions par chat. Désolé. Who has a question? Ah.
Yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. Just one question. At the moment, we have not so many messages, so it stays observable. How do you think it will be if everyone would use it and place messages everywhere and we get a mess, or in the other hand, inappropriate messages?
So two questions. The first one is if we have a lot of messages, how to find ourselves, and the second, how to moderate all that. Is it a good translation? Okay.
The Pokemon Go people take over.
Yeah.
Well, for both, I mean, I guess we're talking for the messages you're talking about. You're asking me how do you think this will evaluate, and if we have a lot of message. So basically, we are interested in developing a platform when we're interested in developing a platforms where other apps could join, not necessarily only our app, but any other app, an open platform. But for our specific apps, and in this case for the messaging app, basically the Xode app, the idea is to create a dynamic environment where people can connect without knowing one another. So, and this is a missing aspect in today's existing environment of apps, is that everything's based on posting, well, TikTok-like posts where people share images amongst themselves, and this is one use case, or most closer to what we do. People basically create a profile and show what they are, and then people flip left or swipe left or right to see if they're interested in talking to them. What we are expecting to generate is to bring back the notion of what happens in the outside world, and to try to enhance this by getting the chance for people to connect. So how it will evaluate, how it will evolve, I don't know. We will see how it happens. No, the messages will not be moderated. They will be moderated by basically AI. We're working on this to basically make sure there's no offensive language. We're also filtering the use of personal names. So we're using Wikipedia basically for this. So even as in the Xode app, we're trying to filter personal names. The only names that could appear on are names that already have a Wikipedia articles, because they would be considered known persons. Obviously, this is not foolproof, but this is one way to alleviate bullying, because we're working with a university here, and it's a very big concern for you students. And we're working on different ways to try to moderate, but without us to have to police it manually, but to set boundaries through our AI. Yeah, we're assembling a lot of technologies. I think, yes, they're not, whether or not they're ready, I think they will be ready. For example, AR, since Pokemon Go, which actually is not real AR, but it's still using the notion of AR, not that many apps have been doing so well with AR. And we believe, I mean, obviously, because the idea of walking around with your phone in front of you to discover things is not easy. But basically, we're betting on wearables. So we're betting on glasses, on AR glasses, and they're not going to be ready in 2022, not in 2023. Maybe a first iteration of functional light glasses connected to the phone will appear in 2024, but the market should start to be ready in 2025, and that's why we're developing our apps for this market. And we're actually working in collaboration with Qualcomm, which is basically the maker of the Snapdragon chip that connects the wearable to the phone. So it's basically wearable, the phone as the edge, and the edge with 5Gs to the network. And the technology might be much more pertinent in terms of seeing what's around you and experiencing the real world with glasses. And the glasses have to be non-obstructive like HoloLens, but much lighter glass that you could either flip on or off. And basically our idea is to, when you turn them off, you're not connected. And when you turn them on, basically there you have, your augmented world. For AI, if it's easy or not to assemble, yeah, I think AI is in everything. So basically, and we are working with it. We're not afraid of it, and we're very happy with the early results, basically of mainly our chatbots in terms of AI. I mean, there's different forms of AI, but in our case, it's basically the chatbots based on open knowledge, and this is very important for the other app, basically the Urban Orbiter app. We're using AI to harvest through Wikipedia, and it's basically becoming another way to experience Wikipedia while you're walking around the city. So instead of having to read an article when you're at a location, so basically the AI would harvest the data and the knowledge and transfer this knowledge to the user by conversing with the user and explaining, talking about themselves or talking about the surrounding environment and guiding them to other locations in the vicinity or to introducing them to other historical characters so the conversation continues. So basically, we're using AI to enhance and to basically move the user away from the screen and try to get them in a conversation where basically they could still walk around the city and experience life by just having an enhanced experience.
My questions for Pascal was, there is a lot of technology in his solutions, artificial intelligence, proximity,
So I know
AR, etc. So I asked him if we are ready for that or not, and this was his answer.
There's one more question, but otherwise I know that the session will stop. So thank you. So yes, that's it. So thank you very much for attending, and I will basically. Hopefully you'll hear from us from one of our projects, whether it's one of our apps that will probably change name, one of the Exode app, or the Urban Orbiter, which is the Wikipedia based app, or a platform, or any other project that we're doing with Yassine and Stéphane at HEPIA concerning placement of sponsored object in mixed reality. So basically, we're urbanoid, and hopefully you'll hear from us at one point in the near future. So thank you very much to everyone at GSGS 22. Thank you, Yasin, for inviting me, and hope you have a nice day and a nice weekend. Thank you very much.
Ok, tu dis juste merci, au revoir. So thanks to Pascal. It's always a mess to do something online, even after the COVID, but yeah, we still have to learn. It's not perfect, but yeah, I wanted to have Pascal in this conference because he has let's say another vision, another way of thinking, and we wanted to share that. I think it was very interesting. Okay, so now we have a break, a short coffee break. This is yeah, yeah. We have a short coffee break, and in 13 minutes we will come back for the last session, and I will invite Dr. Guy Haller to animate this session. So, sorry. Are we ready to start the next session and to take a longer break before the keynote? Okay, so it's better. Okay, so it's flexibility, agile, good. So we are making it Scrum, and we will continue with the second session. And I'm pleased to invite Dr. Guy Haller to animate this session. Thank you, Guy.
Thank you, Yasin. So it's a pleasure and also a new experience for me because I work at Geneva University Hospital. And we had a wonderful project with Yasin regarding mixed reality to improve human factors and behavior in delivery rooms at our hospital. And it's a great honor to be invited here to chair the last session. So the last session will be about 3 topics. The first one will be about chemistry, and you know that chemistry is quite a tricky topic, and to understand how energies fit together and how molecular building larger molecules can be done and how it has to be done is quite complex. So it will be a great pleasure for me to invite our first speaker. This is Mrs. Olga Reinauer, sorry if I mixed, and she invented a really great game, so I had the pleasure to read it all through. So it's a big battle happening between molecules and towers, and so it seems really great, so we look forward to listening to you. Thank you. Again.
Good afternoon. I would first like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to present my project. My name is Olga Reinauer. My educational background is chemistry and material science. And in my free time, as a personal hobby project, I am developing a game for undergraduate chemistry students. And today I will present my motivation, what issues I'm trying to solve, and most important, the game development process. When I was studying, I always wondered why so many people around me dislike chemistry and find it too complex. And while looking at the literature, I found out that there is, in fact, a complexity specific to chemistry. It is very difficult to link the properties of compounds around us and the structure. To give you an example, to explain the properties of ice, one has to start with the atomic properties of hydrogen and oxygen, what type of bond they form within a molecule, and then how water molecules interact between each other to finally come to the properties of the compound. For instance, Professor Johnston proved that making this structure property link demands an unreasonable cognitive effort from students. However, this is the core of chemistry and this link has to be understood. That's why I wanted to develop a game that helps students make this link, because the majority of existing chemistry games, they're targeting a specific issue. For example, balancing equations or calculating solubilities. But I wanted to make a game which connects structure and properties. In order to help students build this link, researchers in chemistry education suggest structuring the course around certain topics and connect them in a certain way. For example, in the curriculum developed by Cooper and Klimkowski, researchers suggest connecting atomic properties to the energies of forming and breaking bonds inside the molecules, and then the forces of interactions between the molecules, which are finally linked to properties of compounds such as melting points, solubilities, conductivities, and so on. So I wanted to create a similar connection. And here on this slide, I'm presenting the learning material which is integrated in the game. I want to show how atomic properties affect the type of bond they form. And then I wanted to connect this to interactions between molecules and finally link it to the properties. And to do that, I used a number of different game mechanics. I will explain it later to you in more detail, but just to give you an overview, I have atoms represented as a collection of characters. And the player has to merge them to craft compounds which finally will be played as towers against enemies. I will now explain it all in detail. I will start with the collection game mechanic. I was observing my kids playing Pokemon cards, and I've noticed that after some time playing, they could remember by heart all of the properties, the evolutions, the points, the life points, and so on. So I wanted to reproduce the same effect. So atoms in my game are presented as characters. What is important is that they have a distinct visual style depending on the type. We have metals, halogens, and so on. And they represent orbitals in a symbolic way. And what is good that they have distinct properties which could be guessed from their position on the periodic table, which is always visible to the player. Then I thought how one would connect these atoms together to form compounds. This is the most complex part of the game, which took me the longest to design. So I used here merge mechanics. Merge game mechanics basically consists in building more complex objects from the building blocks in a limited space. I have here, you can see I have a crafting arena where atoms are appearing, which has a limited size, and the player has to merge the atoms together. When he does that, he has a second screen which appears, and on this screen we see a formula of the compound these atoms form. And then the player has to select the correct type of intramolecular bonds and intermolecular bonds. And the player here has all the information necessary. For example, from the position of the atoms on the periodic table, he could estimate the electronegativities, and then he could estimate which bond type these atoms form. And already there, the player starts having an idea about the properties of the compound. For example, metallic compounds would rather have good conductivities, ionic compounds would rather have high melting points, and so on. And then player selects the connections between the molecules, and we have, they are ranked from increasing to decreasing strength. And while repeatedly performing this action, the player already starts having an idea about the properties of the finally formed compound. compounds here are also have distinct symbols. For example, metals have a metal sphere, liquids have a shape of a flask, and salts have a shape of the gem. And these compounds are used as towers in a game, which means that they will be fighting against enemies. And here I have the type of enemies, they are solvents. So to withstand the attack of solvents, one has to select the compounds which are insoluble. We have heat waves, so one has to select compounds with high melting points. And we also have a notion of conductors, semiconductors, and insulators to fight against electric current. Now, to bring it all together, I'll give you an example of a typical gameplay. We have an enemy which starts moving on the battlefield. It is a heat wave with a temperature of 600 degrees. So the player has to evaluate if compounds present on the map have the melting points above or below this value. If no such compounds are present, the player has to build them from atoms. And my idea is that by repeatedly selecting compounds with the correct properties, by repeatedly selecting bonds, the player integrates the learning material. So currently, the game is in the final stages of development. It can already be played with 200 compounds built from approximately 20 atoms. They are only simple compounds, pure or binary, which cover most of the necessary theory. What I expect is that students would be better able to predict or compare the properties of compounds based on the formula. And this could be tested with standard assessment, written or oral. Of course, this game cannot replace a traditional course. It is intended to be used as a complement because it has no quantitative methods. There are no calculations, no balancing equations, but it is intended to show in what context these quantitative methods are used. And my current needs are mainly the feedback and advice. I'm looking for advice from professionals in serious games and from professional educators, because up until now I did all by myself. So if you have any advice or tips how could improve this game, I'm looking forward to it. And eventually I would like to test this game as well with students. And I have a demo on my phone if you are interested to see it. So if you have any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, that's really great work, and I haven't thought that we could make chemistry as a game. It's been always a nightmare for me. So, Yassine, I probably have a question.
In fact, it's not a question, but it's a comment. You said you need help. I think we are learning about you because it's fantastic. Really, the idea is innovative. How to make chemistry as live and attractive. It's it's a nice paper. I enjoy reading the paper and learning it. So it was just a comment. I'm a fan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yassine.
Yeah, I like the project. I'd like to play it. I was wondering, so if I understand correctly, you're sort of an autodidact in terms of game design. Is that right? You're just learning on the fly game design?
I did everything myself. Yeah.
Okay. Did you look at certain types of popular puzzle type games, and were you inspired by, I don't know, Threes, Candy Crush, all these sort of, what games were you looking at?
Yeah, yes, definitely. I was inspired by several games, particularly Plants vs. Zombies. It's a casual game, it's a casual tower defense game where all the characters attack specific types of enemies. And also I selected this casual design because I looked at the people who play such casual games, and I have seen that the target audience are young people in their 20s, which is also the target audience for introductory chemistry course.
Okay, great. I was wondering, how did you set the boundaries? Because you can build up all the world just by putting all molecules together. So how did you decide, okay, I stopped there, and you mentioned that it was 20 main molecules. What made you decide that?
Sorry, there are 20 atoms,
20
and
atoms.
there are 200 compounds.
Okay.
What made me decide is first the time I had available, because of course we can build everything, but it was physically not possible. So I selected the atoms which I guess, because of course some atoms have redundant similar properties, so I selected some very characteristic per group, and I made components between them. So I made a table of X, Y, how everything interacts in a possible way. I selected only simple molecules with one type of bond present. There are only molecules we have only one or two type of atoms. So it was selected mainly to simplify as much as possible while still keeping the whole theory necessary for the students.
So you use the game as a way for the student or the practitioner to understand basic mechanisms,
yes,
rather than building up molecules forever.
Yes. The mechanism was really to link everything in the connection.
Okay. Any other question in the audience? No? Then I may have a last question. How do you plan to test it? Would you have some sort of trial, or users that take your game, others that who do not, or just how do you see that?
Yes, it would be something like that, because, for example, there are standard tests which can be used to rank molecules according to the melting points and so on. And there will be a difference, two groups, one playing the game, another one not playing the game, and I assumed it would happen throughout one semester, and at the end of the semester both groups will be evaluated depending on how they're playing the game. It is intended to be used as a short playing sessions of 10 minutes or something like this, which can be played anywhere, not necessary during the course. So
excellent.
that is the idea.
So we hope for positive results. So thank you again. It's a really beautiful project.
Thank you.
So I'm pleased to invite our so we are pleased to offer you this. Thank you. The contribution. So I'm pleased to invite our second speaker. This will be Mrs. Noria Foukia. So it's a joint project between the HEPIA in Geneva and the HEARC in Neuchâtel. The project is about environment and waste management, and it's really a beautiful project about how to use artificial intelligence to triage waste. So we really look forward to listen to your presentation. Thank you.
Thanks for the invitation. Actually, I'm not going to present the project because the assistants work on it hourly, so they are going to do their job.
Beautiful. They have to do it. So they will.
So I start. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Swan from HEPIA, and today I will present Lustra project. Lustra means ludic trash. I will present the context and the objectives, the gamification part, the machine learning part, then the result, and I will conclude. In Switzerland, the recycling rate has reached a plateau, and the incorrect sorting waste is a real curve. Sorting waste doesn't seem to be instinctive, and sorting errors cost to municipalities. Our proposal is to build an educational tool as a sorting game, mainly for primary school, as well as developing a logistic tool for the manager. Our objectives are is to motivate. Our objectives are to create a motivating and playful sorting system for young public, to make them responsible for their sorting behavior and right gesture. Our system is an interactive, incentive, and rewarding gamification system. We want a trash that automatically recognizes the type of waste that is thrown into the bin with a machine learning model trained on real sensor data. We are currently working on pet recognition, metal recognition, and glass recognition. Here is your gamification prototype that you can see at the demo stand. Here is the trash prototype. As an embedded system composed of a Raspberry Pi that executes the waste classification application from images captured by a Pi camera. Since the trash is dark, the light source is added. We also used TensorFlow and Keras library for the machine learning part, and we trained our model with NVIDIA GPU. The trash bin and the game platform are connected. When the child throws a waste into the bin, this launches the game as a fortune wheel. The game rewards the shield in case of correct sorting. Then the shield continues to play with the virtual sorting game to learn how to correctly put the waste at the good location. The pedagogy aspect mainly focus first to the playful aspect to motivate the child to take part of the waste sorting. Second, the educational aspect to teach the child for his sorting behavior and have a reflex to eco-gesture. Third, provide the feedback to the child, the teacher, and the manager without discriminating the child against his sorting behavior. Here is the embedded application execution flow. First, we load the TensorFlow library. Then we start recording the video. Then we search to detect a moving object. If there are a moving object, we take a picture of the object. We classify the image with the machine learning model. Then we send the image to the server, and we come back to the detecting moving object, etc. Here is an example of the output of the classification. Here we have the machine learning algorithm used, the classification, and the probabilities. We recorded 200 of PET images and 200 of other waste images. Here is an image sample. The classification result of 7 machine learning models show that we have more than 90% of success rate for PET versus others category. The errors mainly come from bad discrimination between glass and PET bottles. As you can see, in these error images, we have a majority of bottles. And I will introduce. This is David Gonzalez. It will present the game interface.
Here you have a video of the first the first prototype of the game, the graphical game for the child. Here we can see. Here we can see the home screen of the interface. You see after trash, it is rainy, it is windy. It is not very nice from a waiter. So when the child puts a trash in the trash bin, it will send a signal to the application, to the game. It will send a signal to the game, and then he will have a feedback of his put-in, and win a trophy if he has done correctly. Here we have all the trophy has won as far. And then you can play a virtual game where even if he has wrong, he can do retry until he does good correctly. Here we have the wheel to gain the trophy. And then at the end, you see the waiter has improved so that the child have a visual feedback of his sorting. It has impact on the world he lives in. Then at the end we have this nice animation, the blooms, the nice flower. To show the child how the world is beautiful without pollution. My colleague will then conclude.
Lustra can be extended to 4 types of waste. We mainly focus on PET category. We can improve the camera with infrared light and add other identification techniques. We will build a fully integrated device, and also we need to work with pedagogy experts and design specialists. Thank you.
Congratulations. congratulations. It's really a fascinating project, and we can see now Geneva beans tomorrow, your system just telling people who put whatever in the bean just to tell them what they could maybe put it elsewhere or somewhere else. So there's plenty of opportunities for the future use of this, this idea. It's really brilliant. So I don't know if there are any questions.
Hello, and thank you for the presentation. I just had a question on the feedbacks, the positive feedbacks, trophies, etc. And in general, for serious games, I'm not sure we think enough about the positive feedbacks we're giving. In this case, it's a nicer weather, which is a sunny weather, maybe providing some desertification and nice cars, etc. While it's actually a game about sustainability. So I'm just curious about whether you've thought of the positive feedbacks you're providing, are they linked to the theme or just shiny big cars?
It is, for the moment, really, it is random, I say it, because we have not, we have not already asked experts on this matter. It is a next step for the project. So it will come, but at the first prototype we have here, it is for now like this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Yeah, I have a question. I didn't get, I didn't understand exactly what is the deployment scenario. Is it dedicated to be used within in a best scenario? I don't know. I'm not speaking for tomorrow, but the best scenario will be to deploy that in the city and having a feedback through an application, or is it intended to be used in schools or something like that? What is the usage scenario?
We will deploy it in schools and also in festivals and events. It's the main goal is to
the main goal of the project is to educate. So we put it in special events in partnership with schools, partnership with schools and other association company.
Thank you. Nice.
Okay, last technical question. Usually when you use artificial intelligence, particularly if you use images, you need many images to improve the precision of the tool. And here with 200, you had a precision, what you call effectiveness of 19.1%. So it's quite impressive. How did you manage to get that number with 200 bottles?
Il demande en fait combien de le pourcentage.
Oui.
Il est très élevé et du coup il demande comment tu as fait pour ça.
I used convolutional neuronal networks models for training, and I tested 7 types of models already developed by Google, Microsoft, or other, and I used machine learning techniques to improve to a maximum the performance. The machine learning techniques are normalization of data, data augmentation, transfer learning, and a step of post-processing to change the decision threshold of the neurons.
Swan, excuse me, perhaps precision. The question is more about how did you get high precision with few training data? Is it normal or not? I think this was the question.
This was the question,
yeah.
yes.
Is it normal to get 90% of precision with only 200 objects.
After augmentation of the data, I have more than 1,000 of images in the data set. The data augmentation step is to take one image and apply rotation, zoom, translation to duplicate one image to many images.
Okay, that makes sense then. Thank you.
Okay.
At the beginning, maybe he didn't understand the question, but what he did, this is actually what he just answered. He got these 200 images step by step. It was in the scope of his master's thesis, and also for David, it was master's work as assistant in our labs. Actually, he spent many times, this is what you said, he spent many times to get these 200 images from real cases that he put in the trash. Then he used well-known artificial intelligence techniques to augment and to get more images from the beginning, because we know that the learning stage is really important. And the next step is to make the manager to discriminate between the false positive and the false negative, to resend another training stage so that we get more precision, better quality in the system. This is what we try to do now. Thank you.
Yes,
Very tidy.
The images don't come from internet.
Okay, so.
The data is self-made. You made your own data. Okay,
yes.
Nice.
Excellent, and we look forward to see the project tomorrow in Geneva. Congratulations. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I won't forget the attestation. I think it's for you, son. Pleasure. So our last speaker, who is, I think, known to everybody, is Professor Yassine Rekik, who will present us the last project of the day. So it's a collaborative work between the l'Office d'intégration et de formation professionnelle, so you probably know about this office. It's here in Geneva to help trainees who are sometimes in difficulties, to improve to acquire a job, to train them, and with the HEPIA. And it's all about a project how we can use mixed reality to improve training without having adverse consequences of glasses on whatever falling on the floor and breaking down. So I could try it before. It's quite impressive. So I look forward to it.
Thank you, Guy. Hi, everybody. I have to confess something before starting my talk. It's a very nice simulation, and I said that for our president because he will not be happy about my talk, because there is not enough gamification, and I confess it, I admit it, but I like so much this event, so I find any occasion to write a paper and to participate. So I know that my game is not, my simulation is not as gamified as that. We are at the first stage, but yeah, I will try to present it, but it's still a very nice application. Okay, so let me present the context. The context is that it's a collaboration between HEPIA and ORIF Professional Training Center, and the idea is that for professional training, you know that the best way to train something is to put it in the situation, situated learning, to simulate real life situation. But real life situation poses many problems, logistical problems. You have to put setting, etc. It's very costly sometimes, and there is also sometimes problem of security. Sometimes you cannot access some sites or some configuration or context. So simulation mode is the best way to solve all these problems, and this is the objective of the project. So the objective of the project is to build a solution allowing this training center to offer multiple simulations to their apprentice. The problem is that we wanted to have something which is generic, not building one application for each, for example, context or for each business. So for example, we discussed with this center and they said we have cooking curriculum. Comment on dit les pâtissiers en anglais? Sweets maker curriculum, security agent curriculum. We have maintenance, mechanical maintenance curriculum. And we don't want to build any year a different tool. So is it possible to make it generic? So we worked with them and we tried to make something generic. And what is generic in all this business is that there is a process, and in general this process is linear. If it's not linear, it's with some bifurcation, some choices at the middle, but it's not so complicated. And within this, let's say, sequence of tasks, any task requires some achievement and requires some tools and some theoretical support. So we take this model and we try to implement it with 3 important goals. The first one is to be generic, as I said. The second one is to be as realistic and immersive as possible. And the third one is to gamify this process. So this is the model. The model is always a generic path, and then each task we associate to this task an appropriate scene and 3D objects to manipulate, some achievements and constraints. We have hints and theoretical supports, and we gamify all these for each task. So this is the generic model of the application. In terms of technologies, the project is based on augmented reality, so we are using HoloLens 2, and we are developing all the application using Unity, so nothing special about that. And to validate our approach, we have selected one context in order to make a proof of concept, and it was not our choice, it was the choice of the center. They said, this is something we dream about it since many years, how to teach people from service jobs how to dress tables, because there is a strict codification for that, and it must be parallel 2 centimeters between them, right, left, there is an order, etc. So it's perfect to test our model of task-based process. So we worked with them in order to build a model for this job, for this business, which is table dressing. And on top of that, we have, as I said, tried to insert, to put some gamification. Again, I'm saying it's not so developed. We only used 3 kinds of gamification aspects. First, we have the scoring aspect. The second gamification aspect is that we have created within our tools something called like missions. And the idea behind missions is that we can work in group competitively or cooperatively, and this can give some motivation. And also we have a mode within our tool, which is what we call time constrained mode, because in the training mode there is no time constraints. He can make and get hint and correct himself, but there is an examination mode where the time is stressing, and if he spend more time than expected between 2 steps, it's degrading his score, etc. So there is some competitive and time constraining aspects. So now the current state is that we have developed the generic model defining the general process. We have modeling the tasks about table dressing. We have developed all developed or bought. I'm sorry, sometimes we can take, if it exists, sometimes we can take some objects if they exist. So we have developed scenes and 3D objects required for table dressing. And we have developed now only the training mode. It means no time constraint for now. And the result is that I will show you a small video to show you the state of progress. So again, it is on progress. We worked on that only for 3-4 months. That's all. So this is the scanning of the room, and this is the room of my assistant. I'm sorry, we are not, we didn't test it in a restaurant yet. Here is to set up the table. But here also we have the choice between using real table or using virtual table. This is what they call feuille de fonction. It's the mission you have to accomplish. Number of people, what kind of plats or dishes, etc. And here he has to follow a precise protocol to get the right, the appropriate, how we call them? Les couverts. Okay. Yeah. So here's the selection mode, and here he has to set up the table, to dress the table. And as I said, there is a lot of rules. I discovered a lot of things doing this project. So we have a lot of constraints of sequencing, which must be put before the other. There is relative positioning, absolute positioning, distances, orientations. So there is a lot of things. It's very funny. And of course, the application is, because here we are in the training mode, so there is a lot of hints. For example, he has some representation of the position, etc. In the examination mode, he will have no hints, no help. It will be blended mode. Yeah, so you get the idea, I think. So I will skip and continue. Good. So as I said, this project is still in progress. And what we are targeting in the few next months, because we have get a fund from a foundation to continue this project and to package it and to use it in the ORIF Center, and we are also negotiating that with the École Hôtelière in Lausanne. And the idea is to have the full version of table dressing first, and then to extend that for the whole what they call service jobs. It means not only dressing the table, but also taking commands, serving, cleaning, etc. So the whole process. And then also the idea is to use this same tool for other business, as I said, like cooking, site security, mechanical maintenance, etc. And this first prototype, which is dealing with table dressing, will be used and tested in the next semester within ORIF to get some feedback. So until now, we have tested locally with professor and us as developers, but it's not very, it's just to have a feeling, to have a first impression, which is encouraging, but we need to make real tests, and we hope we will manage to do them in the next semester at September. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yassine. I'm sure there are some questions.
Thank you. Can we test it upstairs, or?
Yeah, it's upstairs. Yeah.
All right. So I wonder, now that you've tried one test case, What's your feeling of how much reuse you'll be able to do for another different task, and how much customization you'll need to do for?
Yeah, we have thought about that since the beginning, and as I said, we have tried to split the problem into two parts. The generic skeleton, let's say, can be with high level of reusability because many processes are based on sequence of steps. So for this part, the generic way of running, with of course with the function to test the end of one, the dependency between tests, etc. This is very generic. Which is very specific is the tasks themselves. What you need as a scene, as objects, and as manipulation. And for that, to be honest, it's more or less 100% you have to redo it for any context.
Okay, another question?
Okay, indeed a very nice idea, and in general also the application, I tried it before. And about the evaluation, when we will use in the building where Orif, thanks. And the evaluation will be based on timing, but also on the accuracy of the positioning of the spoon, fork, and so on.
There is 3 criteria mainly. Thanks for the question, Fabio. There is mainly 3 criteria. The first one, as I said, is the sequencing of steps, because it seems that for them it's very important to start with forks and then plates and then decoration and then bread, and it cannot be the opposite. I don't know why, but this is their job. So it's very, very precise and very strict. So it's the sequencing. The second thing is, as you said, positioning. So it's a question of orientation, proximity, absolute positioning, right or left, or is it horizontal or vertical? And the third one, of course, third aspect is time, but time is very important also dealing with the how to say it? It must be appropriate for the event, because it depends on the number of people and the kind of menu they have selected. The dressing change. So the students have to discover his mission and to make the right choice in rapidly and to execute it rapidly. So this is mainly the challenge.
Okay, another question? I have one. I was wondering, what's the advantage of making it virtual, because you can do analogic simulation as well. So we could imagine having a table dressed with plastic plates and so on. So what kind of advantage do you see by making it virtual or mixed reality?
In fact, when we discussed with them, they said that it is not as easy as that to get access to restaurants, to real places, and to learn. Even in the school, in their training center, they have some places, etc., but they are not accessible all time, because you need a key, you need to have a professor with you, etc. And the idea is to let them learn that by themselves, self-training. So the idea is to develop self-training, and if we need self-training, the idea is that the students launch the application in the library or at home. If he has HoloLens, it costs only 5,000 francs. So he has but yeah, now it's 4,000, but perhaps with the glasses, etc., it will be 500 in few years. But the idea is to encourage self-training, non-supervised training, and to give them access. And I'm sorry, also, it is not always easy to have all the, encore une fois, les couverts, all the cutlery. It is not easy to have all of them and all the kind, etc. So it is easier to have a 3D model, and it's okay.
Okay, so you would see that as a complementary tool to
Yeah,
traditional teaching,
of course,
not to replace it.
Yeah, of course. It will never replace real and on-site learning and training, but they said that they have noticed a lot of exam failure due to this step in their school. So this is why they said we need that at first example.
So I think
it was their choice, as I said.
So I think many students will love you at the end.
I have to be paid at the end.
Excellent. So any last question or?
Thank you, Yassine, for your presentation. Actually, I was wondering, we work in the same school.
It seems, yeah.
It seems. We sometimes manage to be together in the same room.
Yeah.
And we never speak together about what we are doing. I mean, I was just wondering, this is a pedagogical aspect that you are speaking about. So what we do is also try to train young people, young public to have a co-citizen, what we call gesture.
Yeah.
So how could you make that you work with me and I work with you?
You pay the coffee. So first you have to pay the coffee. And we have to raise communication and to collaborate more, because it's general. You go to all the institution and all the schools, you will find people knowing extra people more than their neighbors, but we have to work on that. I will be very happy to work with you, Nuria. Thanks.
So I think it's a beautiful conclusion, just working together. So I think we can applaud our last speaker also.
Thank you.
On your attestation as
Thank
well.
you, Guy. Thank you, and I have something for you also.
I have mine, beautiful.
Yeah, as a share. Thank you.
Thank
you,
you,
Guy, for animating this session.
It's been a great pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, so now I give the mic to Stefan because he will make it agile again.
So many thanks, Yassine, and many thanks to you for attending. I have a good news for you guys, because we are a bit ahead. What we're gonna do, so instead of spending half an hour after the round table discussing for the rewards, we will do it just now. So the coffee break will be until 4. At 4, there will be the round table, and just after the round table, without waiting, you will get the ending words and the rewards. So we're gonna win, everybody, we're gonna win half an hour.
Which is very important after 2 weeks conference.
Yeah. Actually, it was the last 2 weeks. Quite.
So you confirm coffee break now?
The coffee break is now until 4. 4, you have the round table, and then we're gonna win. We're gonna win half an hour. But I have to catch you guys just now so we can talk. Thank you so much. So see you in 15 minutes. 15 minutes of break for me.